Welcome to Now in the 90s, where we look at the game releases of 30 years ago today. This week, a follow-up to an NES classic, Sega Gets Funky Again, and one of the most influential games of all time. I am your host, Jared, and today is December 15th, 1993. Here at Now in the 90s, we made a rule for ourselves pretty early on. We wouldn't really cover arcade or PC game releases. It's because their exact release dates are much more nebulous and harder to be exact. Plus, if we try to cover everything, we'll go insane with all the research and fact-checking. But every now and then, we admit we have to make an exception. Released on December 10th, 1993, was Doom. Doom is the first-person shooter. Wake up on a military base on Mars with only a handgun and kill every demon that comes your way. Find new weapons like the shotgun, chain gun, rocket launcher, plasma gun, and of course, the iconic chainsaw and BFG. Rapidly press the space bar to hump every inch of every wall to look for secrets. Face off against massive bosses, bigger hordes of enemies, and emerge victorious from hell itself. Doom was developed and published by id Software for MS-DOS computers. It was based on id's previously successful title, Wolfenstein 3D, only with the aim of making a faster, more expansive, more brutal game. The new, upgraded engine allowed for bigger rooms, raised ceilings, and things like stairs. Early previews for it, like the one found in the Computer Gaming World July 1993 issue, were impressed at how smooth the game moved, and that there were things like carpet, furniture, and light fixtures. It was actually the lack of light that was the most impressive early on. Dark areas and shadows made people believe Doom was more on the horror side than any other genre. The same summer preview loved that it used a familiar control scheme: the arrow keys to move, left control to fire. They also were blown away by the auto map feature, a welcome addition with how labyrinthine Doom's levels were, thanks to no longer having to be made on right angles. But they also lamented that in order to get all the graphics, you're gonna need a high-end Intel 386 processor. Only for them to realize at the actual release, a 486 would be way better. One of the most exciting features that was shown early on was Doom's multiplayer. Journalists loved the fact that if you have a network or at least a modem, you could link up with friends for some multiplayer co-op. Going through the game together, shooting demons, and watching each other's backs was an exciting idea. The fantastic, amazing multiplayer deathmatch gameplay that we all know and love only showed up at the last minute. It was added into the game about a month before its release. Developer John Romero stated that it was included thanks to the rise of competitive games like Street Fighter II. The hype and excitement leading into Doom's release was minimal. Everyone liked what they saw of it, to be sure, but for the most part, it was seen as a natural follow-up to Wolfenstein with familiar gameplay with some new upgrades. It was being treated with the same respect as Mega Man 5 coming out after Mega Man 4. id Software realized that the gaming press was just not interested in Doom. After all, they were already going against several other amazing PC games of 1993. SimCity 2000, Syndicate, Alone in the Dark, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Master of Orion, the upcoming XCOM UFO Defense. Doom didn't stand a chance against them. They bought a single magazine advertisement for Doom. Their plan was to capitalize on the shareware market. Now, in the 90s, a lot of games came on floppy disks called shareware, which were essentially demos of the game that you were meant to share with your friends. The shareware of Doom included the entirety of its first of 3 episodes, giving 10 action-packed levels and fully accessible multiplayer, either co-op or deathmatch. This shareware version was uploaded onto an FTP server at the University of Madison, Wisconsin on December 10th, 1993. It worked. People downloaded off the server, crashed the server, and told their friends to order one. So many people mail ordered the shareware disc of Doom, only needing to pay for shipping and handling, that at one point in time, more computers had Doom installed than Windows 95. It was word of mouth and the pure value of the shareware version that catapulted Doom into success. Back then, most people didn't even realize that there was a full version of Doom that had 2 more entire episodes worth of levels to play. The cultural impact of Doom is well documented. It may not have been the first first-person shooter, but it became the first-person shooter. For years, other games that had first-person perspectives weren't even called FPS games, they were called Doom clones. In fact, many new games were literally Doom clones, as they used the same engine to create all new original games that were awesome. Star Wars, Dark Forces, Duke Nukem 3D, Heretic, Shadow Warrior, Text Quest. All games either inspired by Doom or literally using Doom's engine. Doom was not the massive, impactful cultural milestone that we know it as today right at the start. It took time. Of course, these days, Doom still lives on. It's had several sequels, and it's been ported to everything. And I mean everything. If it has a screen and buttons, someone found a way to port Doom to it. And even the original game still lives on thanks to the expansive modding community, creating new maps, new modes, and all new games like this year's MyHouse.wad and Doom Infinite. A classic adventure game from the 8-bit era goes CD quality. Released in December 1993, was Beyond Shadowgate for the TurboGrafx CD. Beyond Shadowgate is a side-scrolling adventure game. Play as Prince Eric, descendant of the hero of the first game who gets framed for his father's murder. Walk around, look at things, pick up items, and interact with nearly every single detail of the environment. Enjoy lengthy cutscenes at the beginning of the game with lots of imagery and some solid voice acting. You'll even make your way to towns and can interact with NPCs who also provide plenty of voice-acted dialogue. Defeat the evil Balazar, and of course, avoid the game's many instant death traps. Beyond Shadowgate was developed by ICOM Simulations, who also made the original Shadowgate. The first one was well received on home computers, but it found mainstream success with the port to the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was done by Kemco. ICOM, however, went on to support the TurboGrafx 16, so when it came to the sequel, they already had experience with making a handful of games for it. So they stuck with what they knew, despite the fact that the console was well on its last legs. To give an idea, in 1994, the TurboGrafx 16 only got like 5 new games, and that was it. The biggest things Beyond Shadowgate brought was the use of the CD platform. It got a lot of voice acting, cutscenes, CD quality music, and some super long load times. The cutscenes themselves were all done by artist Jim Halloway, who also did the artwork for a lot of tabletop games like the 1989 Spelljammer release, and what I know him best for, the first edition MechWarrior book and several BattleTech books. Unlike the first game, Beyond Shadowgate was developed with a console in mind. It's why the entire game has a side-scrolling perspective. It made it more familiar to people who played other adventure games like King's Quest, and it allowed for easier control of the main character, being able to move around with the D-pad. Early previews for the game weren't exactly super hyped or anything because there's only so much excitement adventure games can provide. That said, early previews like the ones found in Electronic Gaming Monthly really liked all of the death animations you can find. Actual reviews for it were still positive. GamePro magazine gave high scores in every category, though they noted that you'll be seeing the loading screen a lot, especially with all the surprise deaths that pop up. EGM scored it an average of a 7.5 out of 10, noting that it's very slow paced, but also called it, quote, better than the first Shadowgate. Sadly, it hasn't been well remembered. The low user base of the Turbo CD was a major part of it, and because even less people were still buying Turbo CD games at the end of 1993. The next Shadowgate game would be Shadowgate 64 in 1999, a 6-year gap. The first Shadowgate did get a full remake in 2014, and in 2023, that developer announced a new Beyond Shadowgate that was successfully kickstarted. However, that new one is based on original design documents from 1990 that went unused and follows up the 2014 remake and has nothing to do with the Turbo CD game. If you wanted to play the original Beyond Shadowgate, well, your only hope is to play it on the TurboGrafx CD. A surprise hit gets a fast-tracked sequel. Released in December 1993 for the Sega Genesis, was ToeJam Earl, Panic on Funkotron.
The following contains subtitles for our non-funk speaking audience.
Yo, what up, dog? I'm here to drop some knowledge about my boys ToeJam and who? Earl. The game's beat fresh. Bam! All that, boy. Yo, peep out my man TJ as he flex. And they go crazy Earl checking out the haps in the hood.
In other words, I highly recommend it.
Panic on Funkotron is a side-scrolling platformer. Play as ToeJam or Earl as you defend their home planet of Funkotron from being invaded by uncool, super lame humans. Throw jars at them until they're captured and bring them to the end of the level to ship them back to Earth. Use the radar to explore the entire level to find every single human. Search bushes, shake trees, and jump around to find them all and some extra power-ups. Get into bonus levels like trampoline jumping and the Hyperfunk Zone to get some extra presents. At the end of levels, jam out in some rhythm minigames, and of course, do it all in 2-player co-op. Panic on Funkotron was published by Sega and has the same developer as the original. The first game was a surprise success for Sega as it was released close to the first Sonic the Hedgehog game. They were gearing up to make a sequel for 1992, only 1 year later. The sequel is going to be very similar to the original and was called ToeJam Earl 2, complete with the roguelike exploration and getting presents to use different items. However, it was the executives at Sega of America that didn't get it. They thought the original game was weird and didn't think another one like that would perform well. Begrudgingly, developer Mark Vorsinger said, "What if we made it a side-scrolling platformer?" which was the style at the time. That's all they needed to say, and Sega was on board and ready to produce it. With that, they had to scrap months of work and start over. Because of this, it missed out on both the Winter Consumer Electronics Show and the summer one. The first preview was thanks to the September 1993 issue of Sega Visions, with a generic overview and typical overhyping of how fun it was going to be. At its release, reviewers were optimistic. EGM rated it with 7s all around, and GamePro magazine awarded an average 4.75 out of 5, particularly impressed by its graphics and sound. Fans of the original, however, hated it. It was nothing like the first game, and they quickly became vocal with how it was too much of a departure to be enjoyed. It was too different, even if it was a fine enough game on its own right, even though the platforming made it seem more generic. It was basically Sega's Zelda 2. These days, fans of the series think the game is fine and has some enjoyable parts to it, even if the original's unique premise is more fun. It would be 9 years until ToeJam Earl 3 for the original Xbox. If you wanted to play Panic on Funkotron now, you easily can, as it's on Steam for like $1 and on the Sega Genesis HD Mini 2. Knee deep in everything else released this week, hurting him plenty, here's Editor Dylan.
Quick rundown of games I didn't play. Nobunaga's Ambition, which is the 16th century Japanese version of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which was a Koei strategy game that also released its third iteration this week, Dragon Destiny. This will be the 4th or 5th time we've talked about them, and it definitely won't be the last. One game I thought was just another strategy game when I looked at raw gameplay was Metal Marines for the SNES. And while that is technically correct, I guess a better descriptor would be closer to Sim City. But imagine there's another city on the island across from yours. Now imagine everything you build has the sole purpose of destroying that city, battleship style. I really wish I had time to figure out what everything does, but there's a huge learning curve. And unfortunately, these videos don't edit themselves, and I got deadlines. F-117 Nightstorm for the Genesis is yet another flight combat sim with a very low frame rate. Although, the presentation and audio design make it one of the better ones, with all the voice lines, customization options, and multiple viewpoints. I'm sure if you're a fan of the genre, you'd likely love this one back in the day. The final game released this week I didn't play because bitch I got deadlines was Stellar Fire for the Sega CD. It's a first-person shooter with very minimal level design. Watch a 3-minute FMV that is basically early 90s CGI space battle.mp4, peruse 5 flat differently colored maps, and listen to the various CD quality songs. Hidden Jam. No time for hidden jam alerts, deadlines. But let's move on to a game released this week that I actually played. Blades of Vengeance on the Genesis is not a hockey game like we originally thought. Sorry, Jared, I guess you were wrong about the sports game coming out this week. It's a surprisingly fun hack and slash platformer. The 80s metal album theme is always a safe bet for a good setting, and it's got a unique inventory system where you find and store key items, health, and invisibility potions. I also enjoy the fact that they give you the choice of which character you want to be, as if you didn't already know it was going to be her. I mean, why wouldn't you choose her? Because the mage on the right has a projectile? Yes, that is why you picked the mage. Because some of these enemy placements are bullshit. I hate to admit it, but this is the first time I've ever played Sunset Riders, which released on the SNES this week. And I love it so much! Listen to that Turtles in Time ass soundtrack. It's way better than the Genesis version we covered a year ago. Double the levels, the voices were added back from the arcade version, but am I missing something here, or is there really no reason to not pick Cormano? He looks the coolest with the hot pink poncho and sombrero combo, but is also the only character with a double barrel shotgun. Permanent spread shot right from the start? Best day ever! Another game I never played until now is The Adventures of Dr. Franken. One of those under-the-radar platformers that probably has some diehard fans out there like Decapitac or Plock. I couldn't even pass the first stage. It's freaking hard, man. On another note, this is the second week in a row where we have a Super Nintendo game with an upbeat remix of a Beethoven song. What? Cue the song! I don't have any extra insight, I just thought that was a weird coincidence. Let's try something different. I'm gonna give you some potential names for an SNES game. Which one sounds cooler to you? Temporal Transit, Soldiers of Fortune, or The Chaos Engine? I'm gonna hold off on the one America got, and chances are if you live across the pond, then you already know which one you got. But this game is a blast! It's like Zombies Ate My Neighbors meets Smash TV. And even if you don't have friends to play with because deadlines, it still has a co-op buddy that helps you mow down enemies. As long as you pick one with a higher intelligence stat. Otherwise, they might just spin around in circles. Yeah, this game was ahead of its time and offered light RPG elements in their top-down shooter, with different classes and multiple stats to upgrade. So back to the original question, which name sounds the coolest? Personally, I like the Chaos Engine, which was the name PAL Regions received. Not over here. We just can't resist changing things that don't need changing.
Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter II, both were fighting for Sega Third-Party Game of the Year. But Soldiers of Fortune blew them away. Soldiers of Fortune. More action, more firepower, more attitude. And Sega Third-Party Game of the Year. Available on Sega Genesis and Super NES. Game over.
Yep, 1993 America thought Soldiers of Fortune was a more interesting name. Just like Sonic CD's Japanese music sucked, and Cliffhanger was a better 1993 Stallone movie than Demolition Man. And I know these things are subjective, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but if I didn't have deadlines approaching, I'd show 1993 America how not to use the 3 fucking seashells. 14 games came out on these consoles this week in 1993. Yes, I vaguely threatened a whole year, but come on, Demolition Man is one of the all-time greats. Can you blame me? And hey, I just realized, no sports games for a second week in a row. Wait a second, what is that in the Genesis section?
Hey, that counts as a sport game, right?
Damn it, how'd you sneak that in there?
Ah, see, sports game, I told you.
What about my deadlines? Alright, real quick.
All right, good. Got him.
Winter Olympic Games Lilyhammer 94 is based on a probably real event that happened and likely featured many activities to do in a cold-ass environment. These winter sports include skiing before they had a chance to flatten the trail yet, reenacting a turd going through your plumbing, target practice, what the fuck, trying to finish a race without shitting your pants, Sir Isaac Newton can eat a dick, becoming one with nature, making the simple act of walking way harder than it needs to be, overcoming your crippling fear of flags, overcoming your fear of flags by becoming one with nature, and launching a yellow missile to deliver a rotisserie chicken. There's your damn sports game. Quit messing with my deadlines, Jared.
All right, got you good. Here in the collector's corner, the full version of Doom had a retail price of $39.99. PC game values these days vary wildly, so full copies of Doom on floppy disks can range anywhere from $80 for all the floppy disks to $300 for the registered original game. Beyond Shadowgate is this week's biggest value gainer. It released costing $49.95, and now just the disc alone is $425. If you have the jewel case and the manual, it only goes up to $475, which is thankfully down from $700 just a few months ago. Panic on Funkotron's value got lame. It cost $49.95 when it came out, and now you can easily find it for $15. A complete copy only goes for $30. And that's it for today. Next week, the spice must flow. The Ninja Turtles' answer to Street Fighter, and Sega makes an answer to Mortal Kombat. I'm your host, Jared, and this was Now in the 90s. Thank you so much for watching Now in the 90s. I want to thank some patrons like Minnesota Jones, Tommy, and Skizzy. Please like the video and leave a comment down below, especially if you played any of the games that we mentioned this week, like Doom. I know you all played Doom, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you already are a subscriber, Thank you so much for watching this show every single Friday. I have some very vivid memories of when I first played Doom. My oldest brother had a computer and it only had MS-DOS, didn't have Windows, and anytime that he had to go off to hang with friends or wherever, we would sneak into his room and I had to learn that MS-DOS programming trying to figure out how to play Doom. CD space Doom, CD space Doom, Doom EXE, run Doom, whatever. It was like a puzzle all on its own.